Whoa, hey, whoa, hold up. Aren't you that Eagle and Rice guy?
Yeah, hey, it's Ego and Vice, but anyway.
Oh, dude, I thought you quit. Like, why did you quit? I thought you quit the podcast.
Well, no, I didn't quit. I just took a break, everyone needs a little time away, recharge the batteries.
Oh, yeah, totally, bro. Gotta recharge those batteries. Hey, I got a podcast.
Oh, yeah? That's cool. What is it? What's it about?
It's about pickleball.
Oh, nice. Cool. So you must play pickleball?
No.
Okay. Have you ever played pickleball?
No.
Well, then why is your podcast about pickleball?
Oh, dude, it is super trendy right now, and it's like all the rage. And I just really wanted to jump on the bandwagon and find something kind of cool so people thought I was cool, I don't have a lot of friends. Anyway, I can sell a ton of coffee cups, t-shirts. It's all about branding. Gotta get famous, bro. And who cares what it's about, as long as it looks good, and you got lots of merch, and people think that you are what you think they say you think you are, kind of thing. And I'm gonna make it on the radio, at least XFM. Is that still a thing?
I don't know. So what do you talk about on your podcast then?
Bro, pickleball.
But you've never played pickleball.
So what? I have people on that play pickleball, and they talk about pickleball.
Okay, but what do you talk to them about?
I don't know.
Wow. Anyway, you know what? I gotta go. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your support.
Oh, I totally don't listen to podcasts, bro.
Right. Well, maybe I'll see you around.
Yeah, bro. Hey, you should totally do your podcast again. I don't know why you quit.
I didn't quit. I took a break. Vacations fly by, oh so fast. But I'm back. This is Ego and Vice. Welcome to the Season 7 mid-year premiere. Let's do it.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.
Born and raised in South T-Bay, lower class punk ass, I was Northwood grade. I had it made. Spent my nights drinking with my mates. Just a short bus ride up to PA. Red River Red. Then I hit the wall and I knew I had to bounce. They still say that 19 years ago, hell, I got the hell out. From time to time you may see me hanging around. Now I feel like a stranger in this town. Crocs and rolls is where I learned to play. Westwood Tavern's where I learned to walk away.
Hey, this is Mike. How is it going? This is Ego and Vice. Wow, I took a vacation at the start of June, I think. Was it June or was it July? I don't even remember, but I was only supposed to take like a few weeks off, and I ended up taking like 2 months off. I had an amazing summer. I can't believe it's almost over. It's almost September, but that is 2.5 months away from snowboard season. I will be on the hill third week of November, Tremblant. It's already planned out. Can't wait. Summer was amazing. I played some shows, some acoustic shows with my new project, Mikey No One. Just trying out some new songs. I released the GOAT record. I think I did that in the time off. And I booked Ego and Vice up till the end of the year. Other than that, I stepped away because you can't do this all the time. Your brain starts to get kind of mushy if you stare at the screens too long, I needed to get outside. In the winter, I snowboard. In the summer, I just jump on my bike and I just ride and I get lost on my bike. And for 2 months, I guess I got really lost because I meant to come back and I just wasn't ready yet. And you know what? Too much of a good thing. There was an argument that I had with somebody about apparently there's such a thing as too much content. Like if you're just like hammering like content all the time, people will switch over or they'll just get complacent with it, right? So I believe in just quality over quantity. You know, it's good to be on a schedule and stuff, I guess, but you know what? I'd rather put everything into one episode than just trying to mail in a whole bunch of episodes to meet some kind of deadline. That just feels really shitty. Like I'd start hating what I do. Or I could imagine looking back and re-listening to episodes and just having them kind of carbon copies of just like what they are, because you'd probably get into like this like robotic kind of like dart, so where you been? You know what I mean? This formula, which is super lame. You know, just let it flow free. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy it. I want to enjoy it. If I do it to a point where I don't enjoy it anymore, that makes me sad. It totally does, because I love doing Ego and Vice. I love talking to the local musicians, the bands, the artists, the people that make up Ottawa. The arts, if you will, of the Ottawa community. And I plan to do it for a long time. 8 years. In January, it's going to be 8 years. So 2 more and I'm a decade. And I'm super proud of that. Super, super proud of Ego and Vice. The longevity and what I have been able to give back to the music scene or the music community that supported me and gave me so much for so long. So here's to you, Ottawa. Let's get right into it. That's all I got to say. The Riptides. Yeah, big stuff coming. I'll leave that as it is. On the show today, I'm super excited for the Season 7 mid-year premiere. The guest I have is an amazing songwriter, amazing person, like a prolific songwriter, writes so many amazing songs, is part of so many amazing bands. She spreads herself very thin to get the music out and give it to you. Just a pillar, really, a tower of power in this city and across Canada, across North America, Europe even. She's been everywhere, man. And we had a ton of fun. And I'm speaking of the myth, the legend, Matty Grace. She sat down in Southwood Studio and we had an amazing conversation. Probably one of my favorite, not to take away from any other podcasts I've ever done, but sitting here talking to Matty Grace, it was one of the best conversations I've had in this basement for this podcast. And she's like a big pro wrestling fan. So we shot the shit about pro wrestling off mic, but you never know. Down the road, podcasts are made to be started. Maybe a pro wrestling podcast? Who knows? I go as the wind blows. I might go on vacation again tomorrow, but until I do, let's do episode 140. I'm going to play a song, and then we're going to come back with the one, the only, Matty Grace. Welcome back, Ego and Vice. Hey, we're back. This is Ego and Vice. This is episode 140. As in the intro, as I promised, sitting in Southwood Studio, a local musician, a great person, very talented, very busy, Matty Grace. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is rad.
Yeah. Super happy you're here. I've known about you in town because I've had people on the podcast like Rich Chris, and I've seen the podcast you did with Kevin from Stoby, and you're in a ton of bands.
Yeah.
And you release a ton of music.
Yeah.
So what is a day in the life of the musician Matty Grace like?
The musician Matty Grace and the person Matty Grace are pretty intertwined at this point. Obviously when you perform and do stuff, like there's a level of like you put on the face to do the thing, but like it's kind of the same. Like I have practices a couple times a week. Depends on, you're always trying to juggle other people's schedules and coordinate things. And then like I played a show last weekend during Pride. It was the first show with a full band for my solo material, and we pulled that together in like 3 weeks or 5 practices or something. Just like a full 11-song set. It was something I had planned to do for a while. As anybody who's heard anything I do, I'm a person who like lives with some mental illness stuff, and so I also have ADHD, so the whole getting to the thing is sometimes hard when you're in the pit of despair. So like I could have probably not rushed that for 3 weeks and been on top of my shit a little more, but yeah, there's a lot of that. Generally, if I'm kind of in a writing mode, like I have to create or get something ready, or I have an idea or whatever, there's a lot of like planning, figuring stuff out, writing, doing all that. I do a lot of my releases are home recorded, at least as far as like instrumentation goes. I've been doing DIY home recording for a really long time, and then figured out how to do it with my solo stuff. And right now I'm currently in this weird spot where I've been working on a solo record with Jordy from the Creeps and Crusades for a while, and we finished it, and I just have to like, check all the boxes and send it off to labels or I think we have a label and stuff. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I wrote a whole other record when I was unwell earlier this year. And then like Crisis Party, which is one of my main projects, we're getting ready to record a full length in November, and I play in a D-beat hardcore band as well called Zeal, and we practice like religiously because like that stuff's hard and you gotta like stay on top of it. And we put out a record earlier this year that is getting a vinyl release while working on new material. So there's just a lot of trying to connect points A and B. It really depends on where I'm at. Like I haven't been in writing mode for a minute just because there's so much stuff going on, and like I haven't bottomed out enough to write about my feelings, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a lot of hours in a day is what that is.
It is it's a lot.
Growing up in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I lived in Halifax for 17 years. That's home.
Halifax was always, like, my favorite city.
Really?
I've been to Halifax 3 times in my life.
Yeah?
The very first time I went there, I was actually in a band. You know the Hope Volleyball tournament here?
Yeah.
My housemate who lives upstairs, she's like the VP of the
oh, cool.
of the entertainment part, and they actually tried it in Halifax one year. So my band went down with them. We drove the truck with all the volleyballs in the back and stuff. She's like, if you drive the volleyballs in the nets and stuff like that, you'll be able to play. So it was my first time in Halifax, and it was like kind of a festival-y type of thing.
Yeah.
It was like 2003 or something.
Okay.
And it was the greatest experience. Like I had so much fun. Maybe it was because I was there on like a band thing. I don't know, but I loved the city. I thought it was amazing because we stood on the side of the road and people would just stop and we'd allow us to cross. And I wasn't used to that. So
Halifax, when I first moved there, I grew up in like rural New Brunswick, very redneck, a lot of, like, I don't go back. There's a lot of reasons I don't go back. But when I moved to Halifax, the thing I remarked was, like, I was like, oh, a lot of folks are relatively chill. It was far enough away that it was still a big city, but it wasn't like I went for school just kind of as my exit strategy of growing up where I grew up, and going somewhere like a Montreal or a Toronto or whatever seemed very did not seem super feasible. So Halifax was kind of like an easy pick, and I loved it for years and was like deeply involved in the music community. I was in a band for a long time called Fat Stupids. We started to be the house band for this like long running full band open mic night called Rockin' for Dollars. Rockin' for Dollars is in my opinion, and I'm not the only one to hold this opinion, single-handedly kept large aspects of the Halifax music scene alive during times when like there were really no venues to play, or like unless you were playing the Pavilion and you were like a hardcore band or sounded like Risky Business or something, like no one really cared. And you know, just like everyone or a lot of people, it takes a while to get to a point where you're actually a good band. You know, you can have all the heart in the world, but there's like a point where it coheses, I guess is the way I'm trying to say it. A good band is subjective, but like, you know, it coheses, and like it took a minute for Fat Stupids to do that. A little Halifax history lesson. There's a bar there called the Seahorse Tavern. And right now the Seahorse is located in a space that used to be occupied by a venue called Hell's Kitchen. And so they would do Tuesday Nights in Hell. And Tuesday Nights in Hell was the same principle as Rockin' for Dollars, where a band would go up and you would play for 15 or 20 minutes and you would work on new material, you'd get stage practice, like invaluable stuff. And when Hell's Kitchen closed down, Reflections Cabaret picked it up and kind of continued the lineage. So like I got exposed to a lot of stuff as well, like inner workings of things, and also just like bands would tour through and be like, we're here on a Monday night, what can we do? And it's like, if you pay a $2 cover, you have a chance to spin a wheel. You might get beer spit on you, but you might win $1,000.
Nice.
So
righteous bucks. I also grew up in Thunder Bay, which was a very isolating place for me. Like I touched a bit off mic where it was like lovely if you were out camping or something like that, but long cold winters. And I kind of started playing music, or I found music kind of in those days, in those dark kind of winter days and stuff. As a kid growing up in Halifax, I guess, do you remember your first kind of influence of music? Do you remember when you first kind of said, hey, what's that?
Yeah. So I was always, whether this is like not noticing what's actually going on my parents' behalf or whatever, but I was always like singing. I was like singing while I did stuff. I still do that. It's just kind of like constant narration during the day and just making up songs or whatever. And when I was quite young was, you know, a lot of the like tail end of the pop boom of the 80s, because especially with where I grew up in New Brunswick, we only had AM radio. So it was like Beach Boys, pop shit, like that kind of stuff.
I still love the Beach Boys.
Absolutely. And then on the flip side of it, so like a lot of that was on my mom's side. She'd be like, we're listening to the radio, and it would be, you know, whatever. And then my dad was like really into like guitar rock stuff, like Boston and Leonard Skinner and all of that shit. And so I was just exposed to this weird intersection of like, oh, I like melodic things, and also I like kind of loud things. And then I was like 8 years old, and a neighborhood kid whose dad played guitar. This is going to make me sound really old. Do you remember the Columbia Record House?
I do.
Yeah. So
that's where you could order stuff. It would be like something came in and you could order it.
Yeah, like you'd get like
an early
7
Amazon.
CDs or 7 tapes for $1.
Yeah.
You had to buy one at real cost or whatever.
If you buy the subscription to something.
Exactly,
I remember that.
So this kid in the neighborhood had a copy of Dookie, and this would be 94, 95, so I would have been like, you know, 8 or 9 years old, and it was just like, I heard it, and I was like, this is the shit. Like, this is groundbreaking. And then I didn't hear, it wasn't like something that I got to take home with me. And then there was another kid in the neighborhood who had a mixed CD, or had like early access to CD burning.
Yeah.
And so he had made a mixtape, and one of the songs on it was Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh, boy.
And the first time you hear that song, when you haven't heard anything like that, it's a mind, like, say what you will about Nirvana, that's mind blowing to a kid from a rural town.
It's funny, you know, it's people ask, like, I don't know, I guess boomers or something, where were you when they landed on the moon, or where were you when the Challenger exploded or something like that? But I actually know where I was when I first heard Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
I think it was the winter. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the winter. But anyway, my friend James came up to me and said, you have to hear this song.
Yeah.
Whatever. And he had it like on a VHS tape. He taped it like a press record on bunch of music or something. No, I remember I saw the video.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
the first time I saw it. And he's like, it's the greatest song in the world. And you're young looking for something. And I just agreed. This is the greatest song in the world.
Yeah.
And everything kind of went from there. Mike, one of my questions that I was going to ask you was like, do you remember the day you heard the music that would be kind of the overall influence, or like the first day you heard punk rock or something? But I guess that would be...
that would be like the earliest memories. And then the other two big ones, the record I count as like the first real quote unquote punk record, like depending on how puristy you're gonna get about it. We were watching skateboard videos in grade 7, and this single video had Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue by the Ramones, and I believe Police Truck by Dead Kennedys. It was either Police Truck or it was something off Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, but something about both of those bands really drew me to it. And then the first real like punk quote unquote punk CD I had was a copy of Plastic Surgery Disasters and God We Trust Incorporated. And I would listen to that on the school bus, hearing songs like Terminal Preppy and Well-Paid Scientist and Nazi Punks Fuck Off, and being like, oh, there's more to the world. And it was like kind of like seeing color for the first time within music, like feeling like, oh, maybe I could do that too.
That's so crazy, because I kind of have the same stories. I had a friend named Jay Mason, and he was like my outlet for like punk rock. That's where the very first punk thing I think I ever heard was like in 1988. I guess it was punk, but it was the Dead Milkmen.
Of course.
Yeah, and it was like Smoking Banana Peels. And I'm like, that's not a real song. My friend told me that's not a real song, you know?
And they're like, no, there's a big lizard on the album.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Big lizard in my backyard.
Yeah.
But Jay, he had like tapes, cassettes, tons of cassettes, and he had like the Dead Kennedy stuff. Yeah. And I remember I can't remember what it was, but there was like what song? Might have been Plastic Surgery Disasters, but it was the same on both sides. But there was like tons of songs on it. I'm like, why is it the same on the both sides? Because the songs were super short and super fast, and it was, you know, it just opened me up to like, wow, this is music. And then he lent me No Control by Bad Religion. Nice. It was like one of the first clear clear tapes that you could only get like in the States?
Yeah, they were like the fancy ones.
Wow.
You knew you bought a real tape when it was clear.
Yeah. And I'd never seen clear tape, but it was amazing, and I put it in, and Bad Religion, No Control changed my life.
That's still my favorite Bad Religion record, because like it's always for me, because you know people get into those arguments or whatever, and it's like Suffer No Control, Against the Grain. Obviously, that's like a trifecta.
The trilogy, yeah.
And then, you know, they that resurgence in the early 2000s with like Empire Strikes First and like those, they all have their charm, but like Suffer into No Control into Against the Grain over the course of like 2 years, like come on.
It's amazing. Here's a great story about well, obviously you know Rich's band Positive Charge.
Yeah.
You know Gary, the drummer, Gary Doherty?
Yeah.
I grew up with Gary in Thunder Bay.
Played in Audio Visceral as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We grew up together, and when I borrowed the tape off of Jay Mason, it didn't have a case for it. When I was talking to Gary about it, when he was sitting right where you were, he's like, I borrowed the same tape off Jay, and he's like, I'm the one that didn't give him back the case. I only gave him back the tape. Because I always wondered, where's the case?
Yeah.
And Jay was like, I don't know. But
yeah,
Gary
lost to time. Yeah,
we had this moment, like when we were talking about that tape. It was like, oh my god, like that tape changed both our lives.
Totally, that's your sisterhood of the traveling pants.
Right.
Absolutely,
That's wonderful. It's amazing how life just kind of like, it's like the universe. I don't know. It just kind of
sometimes things weirdly just line up. It's very bizarre.
I think it's it's my simulation theory, where I'm my own puppet master. I'm just making this up as I go. Maybe.
I mean, you know what? If if that feels better than a potential alternative, run with it, because it's way too hard to not.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think that's
Absolutely.
fun. So did you always play guitar? Like, is that your main instrument, guitar?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing guitar when I was 14 or 15. I had always wanted to, but like my folks didn't have a lot of money, and it was just not really accessible. And also, I was never the kid. I can say this in hindsight. It must be very challenging to try to raise a neurodivergent queer child in a place where you have no exposure to any of these things, and you are not equipped to do it. They tried their best. I'll give them that. But they were like, they'd constantly put me in sports, and I'm not a competitive person. I don't like do whatever you want, but like I'm just not really a competitive person.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that if they got me a guitar, it would probably just collect dust because I wouldn't have to follow through. Joke's on them, because I got a guitar, and it was like, and all I did for the first couple of months was literally like, you mute the strings and you rhythmically click out things or whatever. And it just took a hold of me. And I was like, I want to do this. And it was always like, I wanted to be like, when I had an acoustic guitar at first, and a couple months later for Christmas, my parents were like, we're going to invest in this. They gave me a little tiny like Fender amp that had an overdrive button, and I had this like Squire Strat that was pretty good for what it was. And immediately, as soon as I found that little white button, I was like, that's the thing I want it to sound like. And
do you remember the first song you wrote?
First song I wrote?
Yeah.
Okay, I had a really, really challenging time learning how to write songs.
Okay.
Because my friends and the people I grew up around were very much like metalheads. And so that was just like beyond my scope.
To start out, it'd be a very intimidating
it's pretty
sound.
It's pretty intimidating, and like I like metal, and there's cool things, but like
I
it was
still
just,
can't play that shit.
No. Somebody's like, do a chug, and I was like, I can do like the Dillinger 4 thing where they give up like a third of the way through. I can do that.
Yeah, where it's just like it starts right, then it gets slower and slower, and heavier and chunkier.
Yeah, exactly. The first song I ever wrote, honestly, the first time I did it consciously would be for probably the first band I was ever in. I was like, okay, I gotta show up with something. So, growing up small and rurally, and being indoctrinated and having a lot of Catholic damage, I wrote a song called Collection Plate, and that song was literally just, why are these people who are committing these atrocities taking money from people and making them feel bad about it? And that was just the energy of that, and it kind of like set a tone for stuff, but very simple shit, like it's in the punk box, it's I wasn't reinventing the wheel. I was not a savant by any means. It took me a long time to learn how to write and the first time I still say this is the first time I ever succeeded at writing a quote unquote song like I was happy with. Was I had a MacBook and I had GarageBand, and it was when you could when they had the headphone jack that you could plug your instrument directly into with an adapter, and it would work as an input or an output.
Yeah.
So I learned how to use a drum machine, and I wrote this song called Summertime, which I still play solo sometimes, but it's the first song on the CD that Fat Stupids put out that came out in Japan. It's like on one of our tapes, and I'm like, there, I figured it out, and now I can kind of go from there. But I always had a hard time thinking of lyrics that would stick with me on the fly. I have to write stuff down, and it was just I would watch somebody improvise stuff and then write cool stuff on the fly, and I'd be like, I can't do that. And I can kind of do it now, but it's just different.
Yeah, I remember the very first song I wrote. It was called Hallway of Life.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have it somewhere on a cassette that I wrote, but it was I've been down the hallway of life, and I couldn't find the door. That was the big
Whoa.
hook. And I was like super deep and profound.
Yeah, that's the hook.
But
That's the thing where people are like, I can sink my teeth into that.
yeah. I didn't write songs for a long time. I tried to do covers, but I would just would just play really easy punk covers, but I always felt like I just massacred them. They never sounded right to me.
It's the same as I felt very similarly. It's the same people being like, "Oh, do you do karaoke?"
Yeah.
And it's like, my voice doesn't sound right to me singing other people's songs. I can do stuff now, but like, it's just I'm not a singer by trade.
Yeah.
I used to joke that I'm just pushing air out of my face. Like I'm just literally just like trying to make something happen.
Yeah, that's right. For me, it was just like, I always say, it's like I started writing my own songs because I felt like I couldn't play other people's songs. And it was that saying, it was like, nobody can play my songs better than me because they're my songs. So that's good. And that made me feel better about it. So when stuff comes out, it comes out and it's my stuff. But I've gone through so many weird phases of songwriting and just learning. I feel like I'm still learning how to write stuff.
Absolutely.
But I've come like kind of weird full circle. Like I just released an EP and it's literally, I was having so much trouble building songs by myself that I just decided, when you pick up your guitar, I call them half songs, and you play something and a lot of it's shit, but sometimes you pick up something and there's just that one little thing that's like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then you put it down and you go back to it, or say it's on your phone, and you try to build off that one idea, and then you just either finish it or you say, fuck it. My thing now is that little thing, that's the song. I don't care if it's a minute long, that's the song.
During I did a similar writing exercise. I called it a writing exercise because pandemic, started 2020. I was on tour when pandemic hit. I was touring solo with some friends and had to go back to like a not great living situation or whatever. So I just like head down, started making music. And so I did this project called Modern Cynics. And it was strictly a COVID project, kind of like influenced by bands like, Marked Men and some more hardcore stuff. And just all the songs are very, very, very short. And it was like Dirt Cult Records in the States released a tape of it, and it's 20 songs in 19 minutes. And it was just like, I had one hook and I was like, that's the whole song.
It's like short music for short people or whatever, right?
You know what? That comp has some songs on it that punch so far above their weight.
Yeah.
The Dillinger 4 song, Farts Are Jazz to Assholes,
Right.
That song's amazing. And like the Enemy U song, Bedroom Windows, those songs are like high mark shit. And then you're like, and then there's a bunch of transphobic crap.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
But it was the
That's
time.
a shame.
Yeah.
Weird how things have shifted so much in 20 years. I watch like movies from the 90s, and it's like, I remember as a kid, because that was the culture, that was it, and I'd laugh and it'd be hilarious. And now I watch it now and I'm just like,
I do the like, I also watch a lot of 90s movies and a lot of like 80s horror and stuff like that. But a friend of mine and I were watching a John Waters movie recently, Serial Mom, from the 90s. And that movie is very, very funny. And you're like, John Waters, queer icon, good taste, like all this stuff. And the very end of the movie, like in the home stretch, they're doing this trial. And then there's just like a big, like, what, you're into girls with dicks kind of thing? And it's like, it's so of the time and it's so cringy. And I'm like, John Waters, why'd you do that? Why you got to do that to me? Like,
because it's almost like that was it though. That was the gag.
You needed
know what
someone
I mean?
to punch at. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was just very easy because at that time, I don't know. It's just,
well, it wasn't, it's not like folks like me didn't exist. It's
No.
just the representation was so minimal.
yeah.
And then like as time
They
goes
didn't
on,
they didn't punch back as hard, which is
no, and
Yeah.
the concept of I think people didn't realize how much comedy for so long was just people punching down. Comedy's only funny if you're punching up.
Yeah. But hey,
Hey,
that was the 90s.
that was the
and,
90s.
and without it, I guess we wouldn't be here. So
You learn from your
so be it.
mistakes,
yeah, why don't we play a song on Ego and
Sure.
Vice? We always try to pepper in, as they say,
Yeah.
some music from the guest. I
Some
would
music
love
podcast.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when there is a music podcast, you should have music on it.
I would agree with that.
I also agree with that. I'll let you introduce something. You can choose anything you want. What would you like? It's of your catalog. Yes.
I think probably the best thing. I put out a song a couple weeks ago. It's aptly titled "I May Be a Bad Influence, but at least I'm not a fascist cuck."
Love it.
Let's go with that song.
That sounds good. Ego and Vice.
Check off the boxes of your insecurities. I try not to let it drag me down, but it still gets to me. You don't even know what you're talking about. Feeling that keeping up with the times. I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. Would give you the time of day. Of day. Of day. I wouldn't give you the time of day. I won't let you drag me down to your level, but do I ever want to? I'd like to make you feel as small as you do to the people around you. You can get fucked. 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 You can get fucked.
Okay. Getting back to writing. Talking about writing a lot
Yeah.
is, I
Understatement?
won't say an understatement. It's just who you are. I was looking through some information. Like I say, I try and get as much. I take some notes just so
Of course.
feels like I tried anyway.
Yeah.
But you go back to, I just go to Spotify because everything's there. Well, more or less. But I go back as far as 2020. You had 2 EPs in like a week. Beneath the Bridges,
And
Rumination Year.
Yeah.
And then in July you had Frayed, which was another 3 song. You had Ambitious Failures.
Yeah.
21 you had Dystopia City Limits. In 22 I was A Fat Stupid, which is funny. I
Yeah.
think that's a funny title.
It's funny, especially now that people know I was in a band called Fat
The
Stupid.
I'm a Fat Stupid. Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, then there was Winter Trash. Stop, Start, Repeat. The Breakdown of Progress. Blemishes and Scars, a collection.
Yeah,
which
that
which is actually like a long playing album.
Yeah,
an LP, if you will.
It's things I had recorded that didn't have a place from 2017 to last year. I was just like, I found an entire EP I had recorded during the pandemic of the songs I was playing before pandemic, and I was just like, I should finish this, and I just never did.
Those are cool though. I like that stuff, right? Because some of those songs deserve to be somewhere.
I may never play it live, but you know what? If it resonates and it's cool, and I got to experiment or try something, like it's
Yeah.
cool. And it's funny that as you're listing all of that stuff, while that was going on, there were like 5 or 6 releases from Cluttered. I started Crisis Party. We've had a couple releases. So that's just like solo material. There's other stuff, like I play in Precious Failures with Rich, and we
I did have a list of bands there. Precious
my God.
Failures, Crisis Party, Cluttered, Zeal, your solo stuff. That's just to name a few.
yeah, it's Weekend Dads. There's a long-standing band in Halifax called the Hemingways, which were one of the first local bands I ever saw. I've been a member of that band for like a decade. We recorded a new EP earlier this year that we're working on.
Right.
Like, there's just there's a hardcore 2-piece with one of the members of Clutter called Gross. Like, it's just, there's always something that I'm like, this inspires me, and then I run off and do a project, and then whatever happens.
Which comes back full circle to, that's a lot of hours in a week, and you fit it all in, but you don't do that stuff. It's probably beyond a passion now. It must just be like breathing, like you need it to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it's kind of funny. The one thing I didn't mention was, so the solo stuff now has like a full band component.
Oh, cool.
And we performed last week as Matty Grace in the Rumination Year. I thought it was like, that's a nice nod. It's a cool name, whatever. And originally that was intended to be myself and like essentially whoever wanted to play my solo songs with me. And then I assembled a band that is so good, and we all have such a good time that I'm like, maybe we drop the Matty Grace and we just become Rumination Here. And I was like, there's so much that comes with that. Like, oh, am I ready to dive back into that?
The collective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, they're all awesome contributors. Like the drummer James plays in Siggy and the Darts, and also
James Reed?
No, James Greg Riley. He plays guitar in Zeal, but drums in Siggy and the Darts. And Davey, who was in Mother's Children and Steve Adamek Band and all those projects, he's playing bass and does Male Nurse as a solo thing. And then the other guitar player is a person I knew from Halifax. We played a show together for the first time in 2005, and we reconnected, and I learned he lived here, and I was like, let's do music. So
absolutely. Well, you get like seasoned people who get it, right? And it just falls together better than just kind of throwing something together. And I understand like kind of controlling your own destiny with music and stuff, because I've been in bands. I'm in a band right now that I'm just the guitar player. I don't write nothing. I don't do any of the business, but that's kind of like my break from the other stuff I do.
I feel the same way. There's like sometimes you can only invest so much because, especially if it is someone else's project where they are like, you know, El Presidente or whatever, if your vision differs from kind of what they have in mind, sometimes it's not worth the like trying to get your input in. You're just like, whatever, I'll just go along with it.
Yeah, it's great because in one of my bands, it's more of just a recording project now. The bass player and the drummer, they kind of went their own ways, and I just kind of kept it going. I just released a new record. I just wrote it all myself. I went up to my buddy's studio in Pembroke, but I was always kind of like captaining the ship of that. I was doing the marketing and then the networking and the booking and the writing and everything.
Going to shows, meeting people, figuring things out, the whole deal.
It was endless. Like, I'd always complain that they never did anything, but when they started trying to help out, I'd always be like, no, stop. It's not how I want it, you know? But it was so nice when I joined the other band, the Riptides, because it was just an established band, and it was just like, tell me where to go, tell me what to play.
I didn't realize you were in the Riptides, so we have a tie.
Oh,
one of the songwriters in Weekend Dads is Corey O'Neill from the Varsity Weirdos, who is a sometimes fill-in player for the Riptides. Went down to Atlanta and recorded a massive studio with them, and it's like
Corey.
Yeah.
He was.
Oh, Corey. Is that what they call him?
Corey. Yeah. I met Corey. I've been in the Riptides for 7 years.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
And you would have met years ago.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't in the band when I first met him because well, he's not really in the band anyway. He's just kind of whatever. If we're talking about the same Corey, I can't imagine we're not talking about the same Corey.
Yeah, I mean, from Moncton, New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. He's like the heir to the Holiday Inn hotel chain.
Oh my God, there's so many.
Sorry. Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, anyway, we went on that Texas tour, and that's where Corey came with us on the Texas tour, and we lived like kings because of his Holiday Inn card. It wasn't sleeping on the floor of the van. Every night we were in like king size beds.
Fun story about that tour. I was actually who got him ready for it.
Oh, really?
He sent me the set list like 2 weeks before he was supposed to leave, and he's like, "Matty, can you learn all these songs? Come to Moncton and teach me how to play them." I was like, "Yeah," and it was like second or third song of the set was a Dwarves cover. Like I was going through it.
Drugstore.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, "You needed my." Okay, like whatever. So yeah, I helped him get ready for that tour.
Amazing. That's the universe again. It's just this strange kind of like thing, man. Yeah, Corey's awesome. Corzy. That's what we call him. Corzy.
Yeah, it's funny. I ran into when Lone Wolf played at the Dom recently. I hadn't seen any of the folks from the Riptides in years, and Jeff or Scott Jeff or whatever. He plays bass in Crisis Party, and he was there, and he's like, "Matty, Riptides." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And then I was like, "Oh, you know, Corey, we play and Weekend Dads together." And I forget exactly who it was, but eyes lit up. He's like, "Can we take a picture?" And I was like, "Sure," but I know what's gonna happen. you're going to take this photo of the two of us, and Corey is going to send you a text back in all caps that is just, Matty. And fucking the next morning, I get a text that is a snapshot
Same
of him
thing, yeah.
sending the picture, and then it just says, Matty.
Amazing.
And I was like,
that's hilarious.
we toured, like, I've toured Europe with Corey. We played the fest in Florida. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
we've been around the block together. We're
Yeah.
gonna try to get together to do something, but he's also like, he's got kids, and like as you
Everybody's got
said,
kids now. I don't have kids. I have Thomas, but
I'm in the same boat.
yeah, that's with the Riptides. Now during COVID, we took a long break off. Like we came back from that tour in 19. I think it was 2019 or 18.
I think it was
Anyway,
18, yeah.
and we were supposed to go out again in the spring of 2020, and we were supposed to do like a major city, like East Coast tour in the States, and everything obviously got shut down. And we took a big long break, and Bob and Andy, who are the Riptides, the
Yeah, of
brothers,
course.
they both have young kids, and people get different priorities and stuff, so it was really hard to kind of get back to where we are. But the new record's finished,
Oh, nice.
and we've been kind of jamming it out the last few weeks, just kind of getting together and just getting our
Get the
feet
feel
under
of
it.
that.
Yeah. So
who's drumming right now?
the drummer is the original drummer from the very first incarnation of the Riptides.
Whoa.
They called him Johnny Dangerously.
Yeah.
He's Johnny Utah now.
Okay.
Because it's a new era.
Yeah.
But we did have a drummer, Jeff Zuba, who was
Yeah.
in the band for a long time, but he kind of he had some personal stuff to take
deal
care
with,
of.
yeah.
And it was a long stretch of inactivity, right?
I mean, when the Riptides, the last time they played Halifax was like 2005.
Yeah.
My first band played that show.
Oh, wow.
And me being kind of, I don't know, not caring about the social situation, and it's a different time. It's 2005.
Yeah.
One of the brothers said something and was like, we do this for whatever reason, and I was just like, oh, this is so arrogant, misogynistic or whatever. And then I learned that Pat Birch was playing drums at the time.
Pat
and
Bitch.
we do a Misfits Ramones Black Flag cover band for Target Halloween, but their guitar player at the time, it was Scotty from the Creeps did Hang Up
Yeah.
on guitar, I believe, but Rob Seaton from the Sudbury band Statues, who I like. Statues are one of the best Canadian bands of all time. I stand by that.
Sure.
And I was like, years later, Pat was just like, oh yeah, it was me and Rob playing in the band. And I was like, that's so like small world shit, like you're saying, just like so weird.
It's all an act.
Yeah.
Those Bob and Andy are like the nicest, most caring dudes of all time. Like I love them. But it's good. It's weird. It's like Johnny's back in the band, and that was another universe thing because we didn't have a drummer, and we were kind of gonna start auditioning people, and then like Andy ran into him in the parking lot of the Costco. It's like, Johnny, still play drums? Not really. You want to jam? Okay. He's fucking great. He's still great. He like dusted off the drums. It's almost like Gary from Positive Charge, who played drums all his life in Thunder Bay, and then he stopped for 20 years, moved to Ottawa, still didn't play.
Yeah.
And he ran into the guys from Audio Viscera, and they're like, you want to play drums? Yeah. And he dusted them off, and now he's like super, super active.
He's busy. He's always like a pleasure to run into. Like
Gary's the best.
Gary's great.
Yeah.
Very like, it was cool. So Audio Visceral and I were kind of like label mates for a minute or whatever on that Tarantula Tapes label, and have played shows in and around and together for a while, and just getting to see Gary do something even just a little bit different in Positive Charge. And Positive Charge, the original drummer of that band when they started was Anthony Cardoza, who drums at Crisis Party. So it's big full circle
just all
shit.
just the intertwined kind of like multiverse.
Incestuous doesn't it's not a big enough word.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is across Canada too. It's not just like downtown Ottawa. It's like all over the place.
Absolutely.
Right?
I was the Raging Nathans played here recently, and Josh from the Raging Nathans runs Rad Girlfriend Records.
Okay.
And he also plays in the Dopamines, and he does a lot of cool shit. But he put out the first Fat Stupid 7-inch. So I've known this dude since like 2009, and we were talking about how every time we run into each other, we're in a different city. The time before that was we were playing Pooza Fest together. Cluttered played with the Nathans, or like saw each other in Baltimore or Florida or wherever. And I was just like, it's weird that we always are just like Chips in the Night. And I was like, but I guess we're lifers, and that's what that means. And he's like, we're fucking lifers. And then we hugged it out. And it was just like really nice. Yeah.
I got a story like that too. Do you know Danny Duke? He played like bass in the Rip Chords.
Yes.
He was playing when we were in Texas. He was playing bass for the Ataris.
Oh, wild.
And we were in Pensacola, Florida. Is that where the hell we were? Yeah, Pensacola, Florida. And we just started talking just before the show. It was like even before a sound check. And we found out the very, very first show I ever played in Thunder Bay was at Crocs and Rolls. Do you remember Crocs and Rolls?
I've heard of it, yeah.
All right. There's a really good documentary made from a girl named Kirsten Kozlowski.
Yeah.
It's all about Thunder Bay, and
I would eat that shit up.
It's all about Crocs and Rolls. Like there's like the one bar in Ottawa in Thunder Bay that every single band in like the 80s and 90s passed through. It's called $5 at the Door.
Sick.
I'm in it. I have this little part, and I have this like I'm in it for like she came like to Ottawa, and Gary's in it. Slow Tom's in it.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. A bunch of other people. But anyway, back to my story. Oh yeah, two guys in two different bands in Pensacola, Florida at the same time, same place. We just started talking out of the blue. I had never met him before. The very first show I ever played at Crocs and Rolls, my band, with X's on our hands because we were too young, opened for the Rip Chords, who came through.
Wild.
Danny Duke was the bass player for the Rip Chords during that show. My very first show, it was like his fourth show with the Rip Chords.
Wild.
And it was just like, now we're in Pensacola, Florida talking, and it's just like, wow.
The part of me relocating from Halifax to Ottawa was I had actually planned to do it in like 2017. I was in a band called Future Girls for a long time, and we always would play Ottawa Explosion Weekend. We got invited to play that fest. Yeah. And so I made a lot of friends and made a lot of pals. But the year that Weekend Dads played the fest in Gainesville, Crusades were playing, Big Dick was playing. Big Dick was an Ottawa band with Johnny O from $1 Million Marxists and stuff. And there was just a contingent of Canadians, and I was just like, I knew Jordy and Scotty from the Creeps Come to the Maritimes, and I was like, I'm gonna hang out with these folks or whatever. And we just over the course of a weekend solidified that like I still always I think will feel like the younger sibling,
sure,
like the little sister to those folks.
Yeah. But
like it's just like no, like we're pals. Yeah. And it's just like
peers.
And you might not have had it not been like, hey, we're hanging out in Gainesville at fucking Warren from Against Me's Mexican restaurant. Like, yeah, it's such a weird background story. But then like our relationships develop. I still talk to all those folks regularly. Like, invaluable shit.
Totally. At that show, that Ripcord show, I was so nervous and scared because I was a kid, and Paul was outside. Mm-hmm. And we walked down to the subway because we were just kind of talking and stuff. And he's like, it'd be nothing this. And he bought me like a guava juice. And I always remembered that. And the Riptides played with him at the trackside in Montreal.
I am aware. I'm familiar.
And it's the first time it was the first time I had seen Paul in that long. And I said, do you remember when you played Thunder Bay this? And he said, kinda. I said, do you remember you walked me down to the subway and you bought me guava juice? And he's like, I didn't do that. I said, you totally did that. Because it's like a huge chunk of like my history in my brain anyway.
It's wild because like, I mean, the Ripcords have been touring forever. They have a split with the fucking Boll Weevils. Yeah, right. Like wild shit. And they've been touring forever. They've probably forgotten way more than they've ever remembered by this point. Yeah,
that's fair.
But like
some scared kid with a fruit juice.
But it's like such a formative memory. Like I have stuff like that. Yeah. Like it's only recently, like I'm not a big like in awe of celebrity kind of person. Like I very much like people are people, just be chill. But over the course of like the last couple of years, some of the bands that were really responsible for me getting into like DIY music were, Hot Water Music and the Lawrence Arms and Against Me. Yeah. And I opened for Chuck Reagan last year playing solo.
Hot Water Music was my fucking winter theme song, like my theme music. I love Chuck Reagan. Like he's
awesome. Chris Wallard's songs are great. Like
they have a third like because Chris Waller he doesn't tour anymore.
He doesn't tour anymore. There's some stuff there, but Chris Cresswell from Flatliners is the fill-in, and now on recordings it's a 3-guitar thing, and it's cool. But and then like,
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. And then like I met Brendan Kelly from the Lawrence Arms at Pooza Fest a couple years ago, and I got to embarrassingly admit I have a very literal tattoo of a Lawrence Arms lyric on my leg.
Okay.
And earlier this year I filled in playing bass for Laura Jane Grace for a couple shows, so like I got to meet Laura and like hang out, and Mike Yerg was playing drums, and I was just like, this is so surreal. And I like held my own the best I could, but obviously like we didn't get to rehearse. The first time we played together was at sound check, and I just had to be like, I got chosen for this for a reason. Yeah, I can do this. And then now it's like nothing really phases me, I guess.
Against Me was like a game changer for me, and I had trouble discovering music as I got kind of older.
Yeah.
And then I kind of found, like, you remember when you were younger and you found music and it just was just like everything was just awesome. And then you get to a point, well, I did anyway, where you listen to stuff and it's like, yeah, it's good, but you never had that feeling. But Against Me was one of those bands that I found kind of later that I still absolutely love. And on top of the new Hot Water music, the new Laura Jane Grace, that song "Give Up the Ghost" is like, I would play that song over and because it's so short, but it's just like, I on the way to like Tremblant, I would just put that on and I would just sing at the top of my lungs. I love that song. On my new EP, I have a song called "Don't Come Home," and I basically, it's one of, when you have a melody in your mind or just the way it's played. My song "Don't Come Home" is basically inspired by "Give Up the Ghost" off that record.
I mean, the number of times the whole like good artists borrow, great artists steal or whatever. I am guilty of that. Like one of the songs that Rumination Year played, which is on a record we're working on this fall, is this song called "All for Naught." And if you break it down, like other than one riff, it's just kind of a Lawrence Arms Dillinger 4 ripoff. Like catchy part into loud part into catchy part into dissonant part. Like it's just like, how can I lift my influences? And you just kind of pick and choose.
Yeah. I need to break out of my comfort zone when I'm trying. Like, I won't. That's weird to say that when I'm trying to be inspired, but sometimes I need to try and be inspired. Like I'll listen to stuff that's super out of my, like, because when I sit down, it's always kind of that weird pocket when it begins. It's like, I know this song. I know exactly what I'm about to write.
The thing I've been really guilty of with writing for the last bunch of years is like, I'm a huge Husker Du fan, and I love Dinosaur
Bob
Jr.
Mould.
Bob Mould solo stuff is he's the best.
He's the best. He's the best.
And I really notice it, like Crisis Party is very like Wipers inspired, like that's kind of the influence, and like I love that band, that's awesome. But like when we were doing the solo stuff, Davey remarked, he's like, it's very Husker Du, and I was like, yeah, like one of these songs was I was sad and just spent all day watching Bob Mould and Dinosaur Jr. videos, and then I wrote a song that would be like, I wonder what this sounds like.
Yeah.
And so that record has just been jokingly, it's going to be called Survival Instinct Catastrophe, but it's, the whole record is just called Emo Sword Jr. to me.
Emo Sword Jr. I love it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Too Far Down off Candy Apple Grey.
Yeah. That
song like changed my life when I was a kid. It was like one of the first, like I just learned it in power chords, but I used to sing it because I thought it was just the saddest song, but it was so powerful to me.
Oh yeah. There's so much material there, and that's a band that like when I was listening to the episode you did with Passenger Princess, and they were talking about like, oh, the Replacements are a huge punk influence. It's like, absolutely. Like I am a Replacements. I like multiple eras. Like they are a very important band to me. There's this weird thing where sometimes when you listen to a band and it resonates so hard that maybe they're not your favorite band, you wouldn't immediately say they are, but like it ingrains itself in your DNA. And the way I play chords and the way that I make noise and the way that I do those things, it's just me trying to fucking rip off Bob Mould and Grant Hart.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
absolutely
much
what that is.
It's trying to find just that one little kind of moment in the song. Okay, I'll sum up my Bob Mould when he was in Sugar. And you know that song, "Standing on the edge
Hoover
of
Dam.
the Hoover Dam."
Yeah.
I'm on the center line. That's so Bob Mould. Just that whole kind of vocal melody hook.
As his solo stuff later progresses, when he started doing guitar music again after that brief where he was just doing electronic music.
Yeah.
The harmonies that he would layer on stuff, and you're like, oh, everything is layered. And I was like, it sounds like Sugar meets Husker Du. It's like, that's his thing. And then like his drummer right now is John Worster, who used to drum for Superchunk, but now he plays in the Mountain Goats and that stuff. And I'm you have that guy as your backing band, and your bass player is incredible, and he can nail all the harmonies. So like they do. There's an online recording of them playing All Tomorrow's Parties in 2008.
Yeah.
And the first bunch of songs are Sugar songs, and then he plays like Paralyzed and Circles from the solo stuff, and then they just do a Husker Du set.
Nice.
And I'm like, imagine seeing that where
That'd
you're
be
just
so
like,
good, right?
Yeah.
I saw him on. There's this YouTube video of him like on when he released the Silver Age record.
That record's very good.
It's very good. It's just a really good kind of alt rock record. But they perform on David Letterman.
I saw that.
And he is absolutely giving her. Like at the end, you can almost see him like kind of like, oh, it's over. And he's all wound up and stuff. It was awesome. I love that video.
The wild thing with Letterman too is he always had it. Have you ever seen the video of the Ramones playing Pet Sematary on David Letterman?
Probably.
It's super weird because Johnny is kind of the only one there and Joey is there.
Right.
But David Letterman's band leader had it in his contract that whoever came on, if he wanted to play with them, he could.
Paul Schaefer?
Paul Schaefer, yeah.
From Thunder Bay, Ontario, by the way. Yeah.
Wild.
Went to my high school. Anyway.
Oh, shit. And dude, like, I watched that Bob Mould video and I was like, oh, he wanted no part of that. He's like, there's no way I'm gonna put keys on this.
Yeah,
like, it's just
I didn't
like,
hear any. That was later on though. It was, maybe he did. But how do you do that? How do you say to Bob Mould, yeah, I have this little part?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was good though.
Yeah.
Why don't we play another song?
Sure.
Okay. What would you like to hear this time?
Of my catalog?
Always.
Sure.
It's your episode.
It's my episode. Let's go with a Crisis Party song.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a pill session last year with some folks, and there's a song on there called Crisis that I think is really good. So,
all right,
yeah.
You heard it. This is Crisis Party with Matty Grace on Ego and Vice. Okay, wow, we really kind of went into the weeds there, talking music, but that's what Ego and Vice is all about. It's just sitting down, talking about music, and it's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
What does the rest of 2024 look like?
2024 looks like some touring. Crisis Party's going to do some touring. Zeal and Crisis Party are both playing Varning in Montreal. They just announced that, which is exciting. Get to see some pals and see some new stuff, and I'm excited about that. I have a show October 5th at Irene's in Ottawa as a solo show, playing with Male Nurse, which is Davey from Mother's Children and all those bands, and my friend PJ, which is somebody that he knows, and we just dropped the poster today, which is cool. Have that stuff. Crisis Party's recording a full length in November. Zeal's going to try to record. It's just like this year was kind of like regrouping. Last year I did a lot of touring and a lot of releases, and I was bouncing between provinces all the time. And I'm trying to as much as I can be a little more thoughtful with what I'm doing, like kind of pull it back a little bit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Cool. Again, it's a long day.
It's a long day.
It's awesome though. I have a game.
Okay.
It's called 13 Questions with the Band.
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Time for 13 questions with the band. Yes, this segment's back again. It's called 13 questions, but I only asked 6, maybe 5.
Hey, we're back. Okay, this is 13 Questions with the Band, the Matty Grace edition. What was the first CD, tape, or record you ever bought with your own money?
With my own money. The one that I consciously remember is one Christmas I was given like a gift certificate to a music store, and I bought The Offspring's Americana at the same time as I bought Goo Goo Dolls' Dizzy Up the Girl.
Nice.
I love the Goo Goo Dolls. Anything up until that record slaps. Is so good. I don't think anybody says slaps anymore, but I'm old, so whatever.
Yeah, they got really kind of movie soundtracky after that, didn't they?
But they were just replacements core before that.
Yeah, that's
Superstar
fair.
Car Wash, that record's awesome.
Yeah, cool. Do you have a desert island record? Like if you got stranded on the desert island, you can only have one.
Only have one. It changes sometimes if I think about it. One would be Civil War by Dillinger 4. I think that record's very, like, it just hits on so many levels for me. That was always one. Let It Be by The Replacements. That was, it's kind of hard to pick one of those records. It's tricky because then sometimes you could also be like, well, what if I picked something that was like a complete discography? And I just had the whole, you cheat a little bit. Or you're like, I got
Loophole.
the minor threat record or whatever. And
Right.
you're just like, but that's a tough question. At this moment in time, I'd probably say Civil War is probably the one.
Very good. Okay, what was the very first live concert you ever saw in person?
That wasn't Sesame Street on Ice, which would actually be
That
the right
counts.
answer. That would be the answer, yeah. Sesame Street on Ice.
That's awesome. How was it? You remember?
All I remember is that I definitely had an Oscar the Grouch foam cutter thing that you would put on a stick and wave in the air.
Yeah. I think Oscar may be my spirit animal.
Oh,
Is he an animal? What is Oscar?
He apparently was orange on the first couple episodes,
He
and
was
then
orange.
he turned green. But the thing that always sticks with me is it's a garbage can, not a garbage can on. Yeah.
And this has been Ego Invite. No. Okay, that's some wisdom. What was the last song you listened to today?
In the car on the way here, I was listening to the first Puffer demo. Puffer's a really cool band from Montreal that I like. There's a song called Puppet. It's the last song on the demo. That's what I was listening to before I showed up here.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. What is your rainy day music when you're feeling down and you just want to...
I feel down all the time. No, honestly, actually, to go back to your Desert Island question, I realized what it was. It's Dear You by Jawbreaker. That's the fucking record.
Jawbreaker. Oh, good.
That's also I'm feeling kind of down in my feels record. I will just put it on. There's a line in the song Accident Prone, a near miss or a close call. I keep a room at the hospital. I'm like, that's some shit. That's real.
Nice. If you had a time machine and you could go back to any musical event from any time period and experience it, what would it be?
Revolution Summer in Washington, D.C., when all the hardcore bands of the early 80s made that shift into the Dag Nasty Embrace kind of proto-emo hardcore stuff.
Sure.
Witnessing that and seeing One Last Wish and Embrace and all these bands, and watching how they formed out of this thing where it was just they were 14-year-old kids that Black Flag and Bad Brains, and now they're we have feelings too, and then they made the thing. So
Dag Nasty. Brian Baker's Oscar's already my spirit animal. I guess Brian Baker's my guy. I just love the guy. Where am I now? Who would you, as a band member, or I guess as a solo, Matty Grace, who would you love to open for?
Dream opener. I mean, Bob Mould probably would be the one.
Right.
I got to open for Chuck Raga, and I played with Laura Jane Grace. Like I've
Yeah.
gotten to do some cool shit.
Those are checking some serious boxes right there.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm a little jealous about that. I would have I've just loved to seen the show. Okay, a few more here. I gotta fix my notes. If you could have a drink or a meal with anybody, let's say musician, or maybe someone you just, I don't know. If you could have a drink or a meal with anybody, living or dead, who would it be? It's kind of a broad question, eh?
I'd say it's a two-part question, because if we go strictly musical, Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill.
Okay.
I think that would be really cool. I think hearing what it's like to be a woman at the forefront of that while also having health stuff and all the things she experienced, I think would be really cool. I'm a sucker for cooking shows. I've been watching a lot of like Anthony Bourdain stuff.
Oh, you ever?
I think that guy would have been a really cool like hang. He might have hated me. I don't know. But like Parts Unknown, that show's awesome.
Yeah. Have you ever read Kitchen Confidential?
Not yet, but I'm I'm like kind of apprehensive too, purely from the like working in the service industry for so long and being like, how much of this is still happening?
Amazing. Like that book's crazy. That guy was like a rock star.
Oh, absolutely.
Insane stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, legend. Absolutely. Okay, a couple more. Do you have a music I was there moment?
Oh, I do. Trying to think of what it is off the top of my head is really hard because there's a lot of holes in my brain. But musical I was there moment. I mean, I've seen things like on a Halifax level, which are very cool. That band that got really popular for a minute, Winter Sleep. They're kind of a popular rock radio band. A lot of the members of that band had another band called Contrived, and Contrived were really cool. And I remember seeing them. Winter Sleep played a show at a big outdoor Canada Day festival, and then the folks in Contrived, because they know everybody, and they showed up at Rockin' for Dollars one night, and they picked up their instruments, and they just started doing a set of Nirvana covers. Contrived hadn't played music in years, and then they're just like, can we use Fat Stupid's gear and just play some songs? And it was like, okay, that's cool.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some shit. Anything that was like mind-blowing or whatever, like, I mean, I saw the second last Urge show before they ended up reuniting when they played In Sub. I've seen a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Couple more. If you could give yourself advice, the kid you advice, if you could give yourself the you now, how do I phrase this question?
If you could talk to your younger self.
Yeah, if you could talk to your younger self, what advice would you give them?
Trust your gut. Treat people with kindness. You're as gay as you think you are.
Be nice to everybody. That's a great, like, kindness. You know what I mean? I always say, it's the bridges you burn now are the ones you need to cross later. And don't be a dickhead. You don't have to agree with everybody. People are going to have differing opinions of things. If you're going to like impose your belief system on somebody and be an asshole about it, I'll fight back, like, obviously. But like, if it's just somebody who I was like, I don't really fuck with that person, I just won't. No.
I have good friends. I have people I love and care about. I don't have to like everybody.
And that's all there is, really.
Yeah.
That's all there is. Okay, final question. Matty Grace, Ego and Vice. Who is Matty Grace?
Matty Grace is a person with many, many flaws who's just trying her best and trying to express herself.
Best answer I've heard in a long time. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I would love to have you on again and just talk more music.
Anytime you want.
Maybe we can get into the pro wrestling talk.
Oh, absolutely.
We should totally start a pro wrestling podcast.
I would absolutely do that with you.
I'm Careful. I might actually start the old ticker might actually start going.
Give me a reason to add more to my plate.
Right? Oh, that's right. It's that long day. Anyway, but thank you so much. Good luck with everything. I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you
And
for having me.
we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. Thanks. Well, I guess I'm officially back. What a great episode. I'm so happy with it. And there might be a pro wrestling podcast one day. You never know. You never know. If you want to get a hold of me, you can always reach me at egoandvice@gmail.com. If you want to listen to the podcast, the best place I always say to start is egoandvicepodcast.com. Has links to every streaming site, all that stuff. Just go there. That's my hub. That's my HQ. That is my fortress of solitude. I'd like to thank Matty Grace one more time for being on the show. And yeah, this is season 7, the second half, so I got a full calendar. Oh, to find the energy. I miss my vacation. See you next time.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.